What's up everyone? Today I'm super excited. I'm going to be unboxing two of what I hope to be the best reels for the money on the market today. In front of me I have the Daiwa BG MQ 8000H and I have the Shimano Saragosa SW-A 10,000 PG in front of me. Not exactly competitors, but fairly close, and two reels I'm super excited for and I have high hopes for. For clarification, this isn't a full review. This is mainly an unboxing, and I'll cover what we know now and what we've learned over the period of these reels being released. I'm super excited. I'm gonna give them a full review in the future, so if you're watching this and it's been a couple months, if the video's been up for a while, go look for the full-on reviews because they might be up already. But they're two what should be very capable reels. Let's dive in. I'm gonna start off with the BG, and then we'll move on to the Saragosa in the second half.
Starting right off with the BG MQ. So what Daiwa's trying to do is they're trying to capitalize on the popularity of its original, not original, but its most recent Daiwa BG, which stood for black gold as far as I understood. The reel had that black and gold color configuration, and Daiwa's really, their marketing is trying to capitalize on the success of that, because for $100, that was by far the best reel and still one of the best reels that you can get. This new one came out in 2020. BG actually stands, as far as I know, for big game, and MQ for monoQ, which is their one-piece body, which we'll get into. Picked up the 8000 size. They make a bunch of little ones, well, and then they make ones even bigger than this. Pretty simple, flat black box. And then here is what they're marketing, they're trying to push. So the MQ is the first in their lineup with this MQ body. The new Saltiga has this, so it's definitely the style that they're trying to market going forward. ATG drag, which is their standard top stack of drag. We'll dive into that, how that differs from the Shimano in a bit. An aluminum body, which is good. That's going to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more rigid. Definitely something that you want in a higher class reel. Tough digi gear, that's fancy marketing. They have an extra large gear. We'll talk about the material of that once we get to the reel. Air rotor, not the Zion rotor, which is what they use in their high class reels, which is a lot stronger composite. And then solid screw and handle. Seems like they didn't have anything else to put there, so that's what they put. But I think it's a one-piece handle as opposed to a jointed, but we'll see when we open it up. 571, which is solid gear ratio for a reel in this class. I wouldn't want any higher than this personally for the way I fish. Looking at about 22 ounces, which should be about on par for what it should be. 33 pounds of drag, plenty. I'm not really ever going to fish more than 20 pounds of drag on a spinning reel in this class. About 110 centimeters or 43 inches per turn if you want to use freedom units, and then 6 ball bearings. Interestingly enough, I'll put it up on the screen right now. What Daiwa has advertised on their Daiwa USA website is 6+1. The +1 is usually a roller bearing, a bearing in the line roller. I'll tell you guys something interesting in a bit about that. This guy's gonna fit around 300 meters of PE for 40-pound braid. We're gonna fit about 300 yards. Open this bad boy up. Wasn't sealed. Don't know if the shop that I bought it from sealed it. And full disclosure, I bought both of these reels with my own money. No company sent these to me or anything like that. I want it to be an unbiased, information. I want it to be unbiased for you guys. Basic line capacities and things like that. Boring. Let's get to the reel. Set that off to the side. Got the handle sitting in the top, just covered in some plastic. That's nice. Handle spins very nicely. That's solid. A lot of reels, in this class, not the highest level that you can get. They'll have kind of play here, but this is shimmed very, very nicely. And yep, one-piece handle. So maybe that's what they were trying to advertise on the box, but no joint here, which is good. I'm not a fan of a joint for storage. You don't need it at all. The simpler designs sometimes win out. No seals in the handle here. No little plungers or anything like that. Pretty simple. Feels like it's made out of an aluminum. You get some spool shims, which are almost invisible. This guy out. Just kind of fit like that. Pull that out. Ooh, and got double layers. So we got plastic. Get rid of that guy, and then you got, they put it in like some felt. That's nice. That's a nice touch for maybe making sure it doesn't get scratched up. And then we got the BG right here. Nice. Ooh, first looking at it, I don't like that. So that's a rubber seal right there, what my finger is touching. You know, meant to keep salt water, meant to keep the elements out, but it's the design that I have a problem with. So they use this exact same design in the Daiwa ballistic, and a lot of the ballistics get salt water in that area. It's almost like a foregone thing that we know. You know, I'm definitely not going to be able to dunk this reel. Even like really heavy splashing, I feel like water might still get in there, because it's not Daiwa's best design at all. And this reel has no mag seals, which is actually something that made me want to get it, because mag seals are kind of a pain to service on your own, and I can't really recommend them to a lot of people for that reason, just because the only way you can get mag seal fluid is through third parties, and there's some horror stories out there of people ordering mag seal fluid offline from a third party, and it's not the correct mag seal fluid, and it seizes up their, you know, $200, $300, $800 reel. In Daiwa's high-end spinning reels, their rotors are made of a very, very strong composite material. Shimano uses a strong aluminum in their really high-end reels like the Stella. Saltiga uses the Zion material. This reel has just a standard plastic rotor. Shouldn't say standard, it's very strong. It doesn't flex. I'm putting a very good amount of pressure on that rotor. It's not gonna go anywhere. But what you lose when you use a cheaper plastic in a rotor is you lose a more compact size that you could get with a superior material. So this is just a very fat, larger rotor on this reel, so that you just kind of get stuck with, because you get what you pay for. No, it's not going to affect the fishability or anything like that. It just makes for a larger profile in a reel like this. The line roller is one of the things that I'm worried about most in this reel. So as far as I know, haven't taken this reel apart. Obviously, I'm just unboxing it now. As far as I know, it's just 2 bushings in there, not a roller. And in a $250 reel, to just put 2 bushings in the line roller seems like they just skimped out hard. And it's not even sealed. There's no rubber seals in there trying to keep anything out or keep oil or any type of lube in. So it's definitely not ideal for a reel of this class, especially when you're paying $250. But it's good for maintenance, because the roller bearings go out so commonly in a lot of spinning reels, and it just sounds terrible because people don't take care of them and things like that. So you just hear whoosh, 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 whoosh when people are using their reels. So free spinning feels solid, but it's not super smooth, or it's not super easy, I should say. It's definitely smooth. There's not a super geary feeling to it, but you can definitely feel the rubber seals within the reel. Drag cap, woo, that feels cheap. So that's like a really cheap plastic that they have. I don't like that at all. Unscrew this guy, take that off. So you got a little rubber gasket right there, and then a top stack drag. Daiwa uses a top stack drag in almost all of their reels, whereas Shimano, once you get into the Saragosa and the bigger sizes, you have a top and a bottom stack, which I'll show you on the Gosa. Make sure you guys take these stickers off when you spool your reels. They are not meant to help keep your line on there. This can all come off. I'll take it off now. Just get rid of that. I got a nice little rubber ring right here, so you can tie your braid and it'll dig in and your braid won't spin around the reel. So that's not bad at all. Definitely a simple, clean design. The black and silver look, it almost seems like sacrilege to have BG on a reel and then it not be black and gold, but this is the big game, like they call it. This is their drag clicking mechanism right here, and that's what will ride along the bottom of the spool. And there's a bunch of little divots that you guys can't necessarily see in the bottom. That's not a bad design at all. It should make a nice sound to it. Let's see real quick. So Daiwa's kind of click, but with this light aluminum spool, it does give it a little bit of a ring. The sound of a drag clicking does not affect performance, obviously. I just like nice, loud drags that are they're just fun to listen to. Far as I know, this looks like a great design. The ceiling here is very, very well done in these Daiwa reels. So not a lot of water is going to get in where the shaft is. One of the big differences between this reel and the other Daiwa BG is the shaft is much more rigid. It's very strong. Doesn't have much play, has a little up-down play, but side to side does not. So you get a much better shaft in this versus the cheaper Daiwa BG. The one-piece body, this looks it's kind of bulky. I'm willing to bet in the bigger sizes of Daiwas, let's say like the 10,000 for instance, it's going to be the exact same body, but then with a bigger rotor and spool. So it looked kind of bulky on this 8,000, but it is what it is. The main gear in here is massive. The main gear is probably the size of this circular ring right here, but it's made out of zinc. So we'll have to see how that holds up over time, and I'll report back when we get done with the actual review of this reel. So the big claim to fame with this reel, the BG MQ, Mono Q, whatever you want to call it, it's the one-piece body. So they don't have screws in the sides of the side plates like you do in other reels, where one side plate screws into another, housing all of the gears like this, something along those lines. This is a one-piece body. This piece unscrews right here. However, as you can see, right where my fingernails are going into, there's three little slits, three little slots in the side plate. You need a special tool, which you can't buy on the market as far as I know, and unscrew this side plate in order to get into the internals of everything. I like the design. I think it's cool. But to say that a reel with screws going into the side plates and then having a rubber gasket around the side does not create a good seal, that's inaccurate. That design has been proven to work and keep out water just fine. This is a cool design too. I just wish Daiwa would either, give you a tool with your reel, or, have like a good DIY option for anglers to work on their own reels. Overall, the reel feels very solid. Almost no play in the reel. Daiwa always does a great job of making a reel that feels just solid. That when you turn the handle, there's almost zero back play. It's a very, very good feeling reel. Handle feels solid, doesn't feel cheap. Not a huge fan of the paddle design. I kind of like the ball design a little bit better, but that's just personal preference. This bottom piece right here, this boot, we'll call it, covers up some of the internals. So you can actually, if I unscrewed these screws, you'd be able to see some of the gearbox, you'd be able to see the main gear and things like that. There's a rubber gasket underneath here, supposedly keeping the elements out. Its job is to keep salt water and other stuff from getting into it. I'm not confident that it's going to keep this reel from getting salt water in it if you dunk it, but I'm not confident in most reels when you dunk them. So we'll see how this reel holds up to heavy splashing. I'm not going to be kind to it, but I'm not going to torture it. I'm going to fish it hard and see how it holds up over time. I hope it does well. I got high hopes, but there's only fishing it will actually tell us exactly how good this reel is and if it's really worth $250. So the BG comes in at around $250 retail, and this Saragosa comes in at around $300 retail. So not cheap reels by any means, but that $250 to $300 class of saltwater spinning reel, especially in a bigger one, that is where you're going to get your most value. That's where you're going to get the reels that are gonna catch almost anything that you want them to catch, and they're gonna hold up over time. You don't get all the bells and whistles like you do in the high-end $700, $800, $900, $1,000 spinning reels. But these are very capable reels, and this is the class that most serious anglers should really put themselves in. Commercial fishermen, fishing guides, things like that. These are really the class of reels. So I got high hopes for both of them. We'll see over time which one holds up and which one I'll recommend to most people. And next up, let's dive into the Saragosa 10,000 PG power gear. Shimano Saragosa has gone through a couple iterations. The last one came out in 2014. This one came out in 2020. The 2014 one was wildly, it was probably one of, if not the most popular reels in that $300 class. And it gave you the best technology. It was really the best value for what you got. And I think their main goal with this reel, Shimano's main goal with this reel, was to make refinements and just slightly improve upon that last build, because honestly, up until this reel came out, that was my most recommended reel when guys wanted a solid saltwater reel but weren't going to break the bank. So I got the power gear, which is the lower gear ratio, 491. I like the power gear, especially since I'm, you know, a land-based fisherman. I do a lot of stuff from jetties, piers, and things like that. And that gives you the power to crank on fish when they're in and around pilings and things of that nature. Whereas a higher gear ratio, you don't really have that cranking power. So when you're kind of in a stalemate with the fish, they're able to just keep swimming, even if they're not pulling drag, and get an angle on you and then break you off on the piling. So just personal preference, that's what I went with the power gear. Around 33 pounds of drag, may or may not be completely true. 24 ounces, that's probably accurate. 5+1 ball bearings, one in the roller. Actually, there's actually one in this roller, and around 40 inches per crank. This, I actually had this one spooled in the shop where I bought it, and I fit about, I want to say 350 yards of 40-pound braid. So I could have gone 50 pound, but I went 40 pound. All right, got all the paperwork, pack of spool shims. That's to adjust your spool. Get rid of the paperwork. You have give you some tape, which you almost can't see. It's like translucent, but that'll tape your line to your spool if you're using braid. I still use backing because I guess I'm a little bit old school like that. Take this guy out. Again, I said he might have thrown away the plastic, but I did have this reeled spool in the shop, so call me a fraud if you want. But I guess this isn't the first time this reel has been unboxed, but this is the 10,000. One of my favorite reels was the last one, so I hope I'm going to like this one as much. Nice silver and dark blue, almost purple. I think this design looks great. This is exactly the same color scheme they kept with the last reel, and I hope they continue to use this in the future because it's almost becoming a classic look at this point. It looks very, very good. Got some spool cuts, a little boring. The twin power, on the other hand, looks dope. If you guys haven't seen the twin power, I love the look of that reel. So there are your spool shims right there. That's where you would add these little bad boys if your line was not laying properly. Pop off the drag cap. Honestly, that feels kind of weird. That feels like, this is like kind of a pain. You can't like grab it. It's too tapered, if that makes sense. If this was more just flat, like see how it tapers up? This was more flat or even inverted, you'd be able to actually remove the drag cap. But right now, I can't get the drag cap at all. I almost have to take it off the spool, do this. Yeah, it's kind of a bad design. Drag cap's solid, rubber seals all in through here. Drag washers in the top and drag washers in the bottom. Solid overwall design. And this, I believe, is the exact same mechanism right here, the thing that I'm pointing to. Same mechanism, the drag clicker that you'll get with a Stella. So it should sound very, very good. That's much better than the Daiwa. Again, doesn't affect the performance of the reel, but the user experience, you know. Can you put a dollar price on smiles when this thing is singing with a giant fish on the end? Old Gosa, I'm pretty sure this uses the exact same design as the old one. Keeps water out where the shaft rides. There's multiple layers of sealing here, and that should do a very good job. You have very high quality ball bearings in and around the handle insert. That should work very well. The Saragosa has a plastic rotor, just like that Daiwa, and it feels good, but again, you have to have an oversized rotor whenever you use plastic, so it makes it a little bit bulkier. Hopefully this model does not have the wobble issues like the 2014 did. So the 2014s, when they first came out, a lot of their rotors were very unbalanced. So when you would reel them over and over again, you'd feel a significant wobble, and it was very unsightly feeling for a $300 reel. So that actually feels pretty good, and that's with no spool, not on a rod. That's very well balanced for, you know, a rotor of this size. There's actually a seal in the line roller where there's a roller bearing, unlike the Daiwa. So that's going to do very, very well. One-piece bail as opposed to the two-piece bail. Although this is pretty thin. Hopefully this doesn't bend. I feel like I could, you know, fall on my reel and bend this. So that feels solid. Nice bail flip. The handle, the ball actually feels a little bit smaller, which is kind of nice. It might be the same size. Maybe this is just because this is a bigger reel, but Shimano's always done well with these. This handle feels decent. There's a little bit of play in the body here. Just kind of side to side play. Not anything crazy, obviously, but I think, yeah, there's probably more play in the handle in this than there is in the Daiwa. Let's put it all together.
Shimano elected to get rid of a automatic bail trip, which is good, especially in these big lures. Manual bail trip, y'all. That's what you want. Your bail is not gonna flip on you when you're casting. That bail is stuck. And C, you can't see it actually. And underneath here, there's a rubber ring around the reel. So when you reel, it slows it and it gums it up, and it's gonna stop your handle from turning, which is gonna stop anything bad from happening when you're casting a $30, $40 lure or $10 lure. No one even likes losing $10 lures. Manual bail flip. One of the biggest mistakes that Shimano made was in 2013, 2014 class of reels, they decided to go with a parallel reel foot. So if you look on this old Stella, this is the 2013 Stella, how the reel sits on the rod. It sits straight, and it's not angled like the Saragosa is. So that Saragosa, it's not going to break anything, the Saragosa angles up towards the stripper guide. That angled reel foot is pretty much what the entire industry uses nowadays. And the old parallel reel foot caused line slap and it caused wind knots. It gave a lot of people problems. Didn't ever affect me, and it really just depends on the rod that you're using. But this design, Shimano stuck with it, said it worked fine. You can tell by them going back in 2019 and 2020 to an angled reel foot that clearly they made a mistake. So super happy to see the angled reel foot here on the new Saragosa, which its predecessor did not have. I'm really pleased with how Shimano went away from the old style of the body in the last Saragosa. I'll put a picture up on the screen, but the old Saragosa had this super awkward looking gearbox where I don't know what they were trying to do with it. It didn't make any sense. It was just like they just decided, well, we'll just take this weird looking shape and just shove all the gears in there. They actually put some angles on this one, some straight lines. She looks like there was actually some deliberancy a word? They were actually deliberate with how they designed the gearbox on this one. So definitely good on them for cleaning that up. The handle feels solid. There's definitely a little bit of play, which has been in Shimano reels forever. It's in the Stella that I just had out. But honestly, the Daiwa felt more solid than the Saragosa when it comes to that. There's definitely just some play in the gears. I think Daiwa does it better than Shimano in almost everything when it comes to that. They just have a very solid feeling, but it doesn't affect the fishability, just not as nice feeling. Shimano's using their standard aluminum main gear in here, which they use in a lot of other reels. It's coated aluminum, which makes the reels feel very good out of the box. And then over time, once that coating wears down, it doesn't feel as good, feels a little bit more geary. However, it doesn't affect the performance. Feels just fine. So out of the box, this reel feels exceptionally smooth. Feels, I shouldn't say smooth. I should say it's very easy to turn the handle considering how many rubber seals there are in this reel. So there we have it, two what I hope to be very capable reels in the $250 to $300 class. The Daiwa BG MQ and the Shimano Saragosa SW-A. Y'all, I have high hopes for these reels. I really hope they're gonna be two reels that I can recommend to you all going forward when you decide that you wanna spend your hard-earned money on a reel of this class. Again, you don't need to buy a $300 reel to go out and catch a fish. This is probably the class of reel that you get the most value when it comes to buying a saltwater spinning reel. You're not gonna get all the bells and whistles like a Stella or a Saltiga or anything like that, but they're gonna be, for that $300 range, you're gonna get a very capable reel that should catch most, if not everything that you wanted to catch. Be on the lookout for the full-length reviews of both of these reels. It's gonna take me a little bit because you really do have to fish a reel. You have to go out in the real world and use it in order to give an accurate assessment of its capabilities, its limitations, and what you like and don't like about it. So give me some time. I'm gonna create individual reviews for both of these. Check them out if it's been a while, if this video looks old. I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Be on the lookout for more fishing videos in the future. Hit the like button, smash it if that's something you're into, and I'll see you guys in that next video. Peace!